So now we come to clinical trials of prisoners. We talked about Nuremberg Code. So we know a lot from there, but let's see what you can include in your answer when it comes to a question, say clinical trials of prisoners. One is it's an unethical practice. We know that it's an attempt to establish proper safeguards. You can't just go and say, okay, he's a prisoner, let me see what my experimentation will yield result, right? So there has to be a proper safeguard. So this is an attempt to establish proper safeguard, like what Nuremberg Code and Helsinki Declaration as well. So for instance, this is a little historical background that you have. You can write it in your answer in your introduction. 1946, there was this Guatemalan prison inmates who were deliberately infected with syphilis without their consent. So we kept talking about consent and informed consent all this while. So this is unethical clinical trial because just because they are prisoners, you can just do whatever you want to do. And in as I told you earlier, 1970s, most pharmaceutical research was conducted on prisoners itself. So this is again an unethical practice, and they are not allowed to do so. So I have jotted down certain points because I felt this is an important question, maybe a long question in your papers. One is current protections and challenges. So there are certain controls put in place to protect the prison populations. Next is there is routine exclusion may harm both prisoners and public good. Even when prisoners say, they say, okay, let me volunteer, but there should not be coercion just because they are in jail. You know how things happen when you are not in your safe place, right? So just getting some consent or volunteering is not going to work. That has to be a proper safeguard in place. And if you see, there's one example in the UK, only 0.7% of health research between 2010 to 12 involved prisoners. So basically, this is a very meager number. And studies often focused on mental health or infection. It shouldn't say that just because there's prisoners, you just do any research on this. So what are the recommendations in re-examination to that? There is something called as Institute of Medicine, which recommends greater access to beneficial research involving prisoners. And it helps in striking a balance between ethical protections and inclusions so that there is no malpractice while doing the research. Now, re-examining current guidance on prison participation is essential to ensure fairness and scientific progress. Now, it's very important that once the thing is set into motion, during the process is going on, there has to be certain vigilance. Otherwise, people will just do what they want to do, and that is illegal. So it's important to keep a check on that as well.